What's going on, everybody? This is Aaron Trevino back with another episode of our podcast here, and we have Luis from beautiful Houston, Texas. How you doing today, Luis?
Pretty good, man. How about yourself? Thanks for having me out here.
Hey, I can't complain. It's I know we were just talking about earlier, but it's always neat to see kind of the seasons changing. You can kind of feel it. It's a little bit cool here in the air in Houston.
Yes, sir. Like I said, I'm out here in Oklahoma. Weather out here is pretty different, but there's nothing like that Houston weather for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. I just realized I introduced you from Houston, but you're actually in Oklahoma. And I know that there's a reason for it. I know our audience wants to hear it. For those of us who aren't familiar with you, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, sir. So my name's Luis Martinez. I'm currently 26 years old, and I'm a real estate investor. And starting now, I'm a multifamily developer. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
very good. And I'm curious as well, maybe a bit about your background. When you were growing up, did you foresee yourself working, in the real estate business, or how did you get into real estate?
Actually, I didn't, man. I grew up. My dad had a construction and plumbing company, and growing up, it was just that manual labor. Construction was all we know. And I just applied that to the real estate side. And from there, I was like, I can do my own plumbing, electrical, drywall, everything of that sort. I already have experience in. So I was like, why not become to the development side? And that's what I did, and I'm glad I did for sure, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious as well, a lot of people wouldn't normally think that way, right? Maybe if you're good at one thing, you want to focus on that. Hey, if I know plumbing, I'm going to do plumbing. If I know electrical, I'm going to do electrical. But for you, you took that knowledge and you want to go into development. Why is that?
Yeah. So when I basically when I first started, I bought my first property at the age of 24, and everything was great with that property. I was living life, bought my dream car, everything was great. So I thought, right? And at that time, I wasn't thinking about the future. And I realized, hey, well, I'm living the life I want now, but I'm like 10 years down the line, I'm gonna be paying bills for the rest of my life. So at that time, I was like, well, let's start the real estate investing journey. And I came across house hacking, which is I would recommend your viewers 100% to do. At that time, I was looking for properties, and at my market, there was really nothing available for duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes. So I was like, instead of going to the source to find these properties, I was like, why not become the source? And then from there, that's when development side really caught my interest. And I'm like, I love turning something from nothing. And I was like, let's go ahead with that development side and let's get that, get that started.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious as well, kind of what that aha moment or that tipping point for you was, right? Because I mean, somebody could have gotten to that point and said, "Hey, I have some cash in my pocket. I'm living okay. I'm comfortable. This is where I'm going to be, potentially forever, right?" But for you, you chose a different path. What was it for you?
So like I said, so that time I was living life. Dream car, dream house, race car in the garage. But my debt to income was through the roof. For one, I was paying about 3,800 a month. And so going to real estate, of course, banks can't approve you for loans if your debt to income ratio is through the roof. So I know I had to get down everything I could. And honestly, what got me the most was Warren Buffett's quote that said, "If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you're gonna work until you die." And then I was like, I don't know about most people, but I'm not working until I'm dying, man. So that's really what got me going for sure, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that takes a lot of, obviously, courage and faith, but also a lot of self-awareness too, to kind of realize and kind of regroup and say, hey, this is actually the direction I want to go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But like I said, when I first started, it wasn't about the real estate. It was more about leaving, leading the legacy for sure. Because I wanted to build something for my kids to come. Of course, money's great, success is great, but I was like, if I could leave something for my family, that's something that's the go for sure. So, and real estate was definitely at that point to do that for me, and I'm glad I chose that route.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, I guess it's funny when you mentioned that, I never really thought of this until now, but when you say leaving a legacy behind, is it more of instilling values and kind of teaching financial principles, or more about, leaving money behind for the family?
Yeah, so I would say a little bit of both. Honestly, coming to this podcast, I feel like me leaving the knowledge and paving the way for younger generations to come. Because a lot of people don't know how to get started into real estate, doing this, doing that. So when I say leaving a legacy, I'm talking about installing these habits where people know exactly what to do, how to start, leaving properties behind for my grandkids to come and leaving them, showing them the way how to do it. Eventually going back to this video and, say, hey, my grandfather knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't scared to get started, and now he left a legacy behind.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. And I'm curious as well, maybe, could you kind of talk about why a lot of people wouldn't think that way, right? Would you say it's maybe fear or lack of education on the financial side, or how can we get to that point?
Honestly, it's all a mindset, man. I'm all about the mind for one. Um, of course, everyone's scared, so I live by you always have two choices in life: to step forward into growth or step back into safety. Safety is our comfort zone, and honestly, we love our comfort zone. But stay in our comfort zone, man, that's destruction right there. But I promise you, once you get out of that comfort zone, it'll be the best decision you made. And honestly, for me, that's what I did. I was scared to start. I didn't know where to start, but I was like, in order to grow, I got to get out my comfort zone. And like I said, it's one of the best things I've done for sure, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you mentioned, getting out of your comfort zone. Is it more of putting yourself out there to talk to other investors or people to partner on deals with, or, for someone who's, looking to break into the industry, how would they get started?
Yeah, for sure. Networking. A lot of times I was scared to speak in high school. I didn't like talking to anybody. I was always antisocial. So that was definitely something I really had to do. And I had to start networking. I got with people, got with realtors, picked their brains. Honestly, man, YouTube was my best friend. I anything I wanted to know, YouTube has it. I'm YouTube certified at this point. But yeah, YouTube was where I went to, and every day after work, I made it a habit to learn something new every day. And development, once I didn't know how to start, I didn't know where to start. But going through watching Donovan, of course, you interviewed him a couple of months ago. Watching him do it, he was my age. I was like, well, what's stopping me from doing it? And from there, I just learned the process, learned the ins and outs of things, and now I'm starting that journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And it's, I guess you can say you got your PhD from YouTube University then, right?
Yes, sir. Got that shirt that says I'm YouTube certified, man.
Okay, the YouTube certification. I love it. And it's crazy. We're living in a really interesting time, right? Where, decades ago or in another lifetime, we wouldn't have had these sort of opportunities. But with the internet, you can learn wherever you want.
That is true. Internet's the way to go. Before back in the day, of course, everything was all pen and paper, and I still have that same thing now. Pen and take my notes, but YouTube, I just like I said, everything nowadays on the internet, and you can learn anything. We live in a world where it's easy to become a millionaire. There should be no reason why anybody should be lacking anything. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, no, and that's a great distinction to make. You said, it's easy to be a millionaire now, but on the other foot, maybe kind of playing devil's advocate here, it's also much easier to get distracted, right? You kind of see
Oh
all
yeah.
these shiny objects, like, oh, look at her, look at him, look at this fancy car, look at the watch, or whatever it is. And it's easy to get distracted. How do you stay focused when you're looking to accomplish something in real estate?
Discipline, man. Discipline was the main thing. So back to my story, when I got my first house, I had two cars in the garage. Everything was great, and like I said, I just started thinking about the future. So I knew that, hey, what's good about having this sports car now if I can delay this gratification for the future? So I had to make sacrifices, and one of the main things I would tell viewers today is delay gratification. Once you delay gratification, the things you want now, the watches, the cars, basically, because we get these things to impress other people. It feels good to have, but honestly, if you don't think about your future, you're gonna be stuck where you're at now and not growing in the future. So that's something that delaying gratification is the main key to that for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a big key. And, like you said, a lot of that mindset too. And I know you kind of talked about, the debt to income and, you having that success with that first deal. If you wouldn't mind, could you explain what that first deal was and how you kind of got into it?
Yes, sir. So after I sold my first property, at that time in Spring, Texas, the market was through the roof. My property went from basically I bought the property at 200 grand. 2 years later, I sold the property for 317,000. And just off that, I made my first six-figure check. After once I got that check, I found out what house hacking was. And from there, once I found out that you didn't have to put 20 to 25% on the property, only 3.5%, and these tenants pay you money while you live in the property, I was like, I should do this from the start. So once I discovered house hacking, I talked to the realtor about it. I found my first property. It was a fourplex that I required, and I just closed on it about a month ago. And as of right now, we're getting tenants in there, and it should be a cash flowing property where I should be coming out at almost 1,000 on top of that on cash flow. So it's a great property to start off with for sure. Just my first house hack. So that's where the second one was.
That's beautiful. Absolutely. And I'm curious as well, for those of us in our audience who don't know, what exactly is house hacking in this context?
Yes, sir. So house hacking is basically when you buy a property, you have to put most people thinking but you have to put 20 to 25% on a property. Once I found out that you didn't have to, they have an FHA loan that lets you put 3.5% down on the property. And of course, you live there for the year. While you live there for the year, you acquire a duplex, triplex, fourplex. In my case, it was a fourplex. So while I live in there for 1 year, I get my other three rented out, and those should offset the mortgage, cover the mortgage and everything. And if it's a good property, you have cash flow on top of that. So that's where house hacking is definitely a good way to start for sure. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, and I really enjoy hearing about those creative financing things, right? Because I mean, you even said yourself, the common misconception is, hey, I need 20-25% down. I need a big wad of cash to be able to make this happen. But for you, it was kind of the opposite.
Yes, sir. Because a lot of the property I was looking at was 360,000, and 20 to 25% is almost $100,000, and nobody has that kind of money to put down on a property. So 3.5%, I closed out for under, but I would say at 12 to 13,000 just off that first property, while cash flowing on the property. So definitely, once I found that out, I told all my loved ones about it, my brother, cousin, everybody, and they're definitely excited to start that for sure once they found out what I was doing. So that's pretty cool to start that tradition
Hey,
from my
that's
side
awesome.
anyways.
And I think it's funny in a sense, that's like a different type of legacy, right? Because obviously you talked about wanting to leave the kids and the grandkids something, but also kind of motivating, your inner circle around you right now.
Yes, sir. Like I said, I'm all about the mind, man. So I want to, like I said, not only leave properties and stuff, legacy behind, but installing habits to where it's a mind thing. Well, I can do this. I can do anything I want to. And honestly, it's just I read a lot of books, right? So I'm a positive thinker. I always meditate. Vision boards are the key to my success. A lot of times, what I do is I wake up, look at the vision board. I have a goal for the future. So I'm, teaching my loved ones that as of right now, installing habits to where, hey, I wake up in the morning and I know exactly what I want to work for. And once you have that, you have that go for life, and that doesn't change.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to hear it. And I'm curious as well. You mentioned how you're kind of getting into the development game, and you're really obviously motivated, and you've read a lot about it. Maybe someone's not as well versed on it. Maybe they've done flips. Maybe they've done wholesaling. Maybe they know a little bit about real estate. Where would you even get started to learn about development?
I would say either find a mentor, someone has done it, or even like I said, ask somebody to where, hey, well, I've seen you do this, a little bit development. Just ask people that just done it before. Like I said, for my case, I just went on YouTube. I saw that, hey, my first property was something I sold. Second property that I had was a house hack. Development side, I came to your videos, your podcast, and I saw Donovan who does he was creating homes and just flipping them at the end, and he would just show his whole process of doing it. And honestly, that's how I started. So anybody that's looking to start, either find somebody who's done it before or just search up how to do it. And it's there. Answer's always there if you look. It's just most people are afraid to look to begin with. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting as well. I guess, obviously we live here in the state of Texas, so we have that housing shortage, right? So all the major metros, a lot of places in between, we need new housing, right? But it,
Yeah.
it kind of seems like people can be a bit intimidated by the development process. Just the word development, you assume you need a lot of money, you assume you need all these big crazy things. Could you maybe talk a bit about the differences between maybe flipping a home versus building one?
Yes, sir. So I haven't had a lot of flipping experience yet. Development side, I would say most people get scared because of course, like you said, they hear development. And honestly, before me getting started, I thought the same thing. I was always scared to get into it. But like I said, once I seen of numbers, of course, once you start development, you got to find your land. You got to get your numbers right. If you don't find your good land, if you don't your numbers aren't right, then there's no sense, to get started because you don't have a game plan. So of course, develop that game plan. As far as development itself, I would say it's something that it's definitely gonna be there for the future, for sure, for sure. I would provide I would say do that more than flipping a house because at the end you're starting from nothing, from land, and to me personally, building something from nothing is fascinating. Why not learn that whole process, how to do it? And like you said, once it happens, you just continue to scale and grow, and that's what I'm gonna be doing for sure, for sure.
Yeah, no, and I like, you talked about, being able to scale and grow, that kind of that scalability. And it almost kind of seems like, when you buy a home to flip, right? You're purchasing the home, but you're also taking on a lot of the risk of what could be wrong with that home, right? If that
Exactly.
if that home was built right after World War II, so much time has gone by. God knows what's happened to that house since then, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of people like they renovate homes, which is a good thing. And I bought a property once, like I said, the house I have it was built in 1942. They renovated everything from the ground up, thank God. But like you said, you just don't know how long houses been there and how fragile they are, and they can just fall apart at any time. So yeah, for sure. But when you go into the development, building from the ground up, everything's all brand new. You know for sure that everything's taken care of. This is a brand new property, just like a car, and you'll have less problems in the future.
Yeah, completely, completely. And I know we talked a bit about, kind of the housing shortage. We obviously need the housing. I'm here in Houston. You're obviously in the Houston area as well. Could you talk a bit about maybe what it's like living in the city of Houston and, out of anywhere in the state of Texas, what makes Houston special to you, and, special for real estate?
Yes, sir. So everybody in Houston knows that it's just Houston is one of the largest cities out there, and it's continued to grow and grow and grow. And most people that live down here, they're gonna need houses. And guess who comes in handy for those? The real estate investors and developers. And that's where I see as a good market to invest in, developing from the ground up, and then having all these people move in for the future and just continue to with that process and scale and scale and scale. There's always gonna be people coming in Houston, and there's always gonna be houses coming up. So why not combine the two and develop, get tenants, continue to scale, and keep growing?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious about you as well. Maybe someone's listening. Maybe they're also in the development space, or maybe they just want to connect with you. Are there any? What are you looking for right now? Kind of what are your goals? For the end of this year and going into 2023.
Yes, sir. So I just acquired a land right now that just went under contract as of today. So I'm excited about that. Um, I'm looking, as of right now, I'm looking to get that property going, development side. And as of right now, I'm gonna scale that process. So instead of refinancing and keeping it as a cash flow, I'm gonna go ahead and sell it as my first one, and from there, use those funds, those capital gains, to acquire more land and visit and acquire more projects. So once I have more and more projects, I'm gonna go ahead and refinance my properties. And from there, so my goal is to retire off cash flow. If I can have 12K to 13K a month coming in, then that's where that quote I was saying about Warren Buffett's quote, where passive income is all it's about. I no longer have to work the rest of my life. And once I get that, that scaling process started, then that's where it's gonna take me.
Absolutely. I think that's a beautiful goal. And I'm curious as well. I know that you're currently working in Oklahoma. You obviously have roots. You're here from Houston. One big problem, or maybe not a problem, just a concern that people can have, whether you're coming from out of state, you're from another part of Texas, is building that tribe, right? Really finding that group and that network of people that are going on the same journey as you. How do you connect with like-minded people who are going to go along with you on the ride?
Yes, sir. So I would say that's where networking comes along, where you would find like Bigger Pockets. Bigger Pockets is someone the whole that everything I need to know was on Bigger Pockets, from the people to the information. So I would say go join Bigger Pockets. From there, you'll find everything you need as far as contractors, realtors, everybody you need inside your town. When I started, I did the same thing. I found my realtor that got me to my house hack. Now he's going to be my partner on the development side. And from there, like I said, from even living out of state doing development, most people would think you couldn't do it, right? It's always, hey, well, you have to be in Houston look at your properties and make sure everything's going on. But this is what general contractors are for. They go ahead and take care of the process and make sure everything's up to go and everything's permitted and everything's right. So I would say anybody who's afraid to get started, just get started as and you'll have your GC take care of everything. And of course, when you come back in town, just go ahead and visit your properties, make sure everything's going on, going good. And yeah, that's the way I see it.
Okay, got it. And for those of us who aren't too familiar with it, could you kind of explain the exact relationship between a developer and the GC? Is it the GC mostly dealing with the permitting, or how do they work together?
Yes, sir. So the GC, from my side, once I get the architect, everything drawn out, plans drawn out, everything. Well, I talk to my GC, show him the plans, and then from there, since I'm out of state, I'm gonna talk to my GC. Hey, well, this is what the plans look like, and from there, the architect and the engineering are gonna keep up with the permitting process. So them two right there, it's usually about 4 to 6 months of permitting. So the architect and the engineering will be my go-to with getting everything permitted wise. After everything's approved, then that's when my general contractor would show that okay, well the plan's already approved, everything's good to go, and now it's going to be between the general contractor and your mortgage lender. They're going to be back and forth as in okay, well this is what's going on with the property. I just, for instance, the slab is already good, underground plumbing is great. Now let's go ahead and release these draws. So between permitting wise, it's going to be the architect and engineering, and then for draws and development side is going to be the GC and the mortgage lender itself.
Yeah, no, and that's a wonderful explanation there. It's funny. There's so many moving pieces going around there. It's almost like like you're like the maestro of an orchestra. Having the people play their instruments, right?
Yes, sir. Everything's like a puzzle, but once you put the puzzle together, it creates something beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it, Luis. Well, is there anything you haven't said for us you'd really just like to hit home?
Yes, sir. I mean, a lot of people, if you're scared to start, there's no reason not to start. I would say for sure, do something that you love. If real estate's what you love to do, go ahead and get started. For sure, for sure.
Yeah, no, and that's some great insight too. And I think that's really the theme of the show tonight is, if you're afraid to get started, you may as well do it, right?
Exactly. I think about it like this. A lot of people are, how do you expect to swim in the water if you never swum before? Of course, you might be scared, but if you don't throw yourself in the water to begin with, you'll never know how to swim. Same thing with real estate. Throw yourself out there, take chances, and eventually you're gonna get pretty good at it. So give it a try.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll definitely take that advice to heart. Luis, maybe we're in the Houston area, another part of Texas or another part of the country, and we just want to connect with you. Where can we find you?
Yes, sir. So you can find me on Instagram. As of right now, that's what I have. It's gonna be Lewis, LUISM Real Estate. And if you have any questions, just shoot me a DM, and I would love to help somebody out in the meantime.
Okay, solid. And we'll make sure to have your Instagram handle in the show notes, in the description of the video. Luis, I've learned a bit about your background, kind of your journey, you starting out, and obviously, you doing a few deals here and there, and a lot. I love your mindset, and I'm excited to see what you do in the future. So thanks again for coming on the show.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you later.
Sounds good. Thank you.